Alright, so I'm back. Sorry about the long wait, but you know how life gets. Last time we were talking a little bit about how to structure your paper, whether you want to start with the particulars and move towards your big idea, whether you want to start with your big idea and then demonstrate how that works out in the particular text. You have some options as far as how you put the big paper together. Do you move from big picture to small picture to big picture? Those are your choices as a writer. It's going to come down to what kind of idea are you trying to advance. Likewise, when you're doing your sources, you've got a number of required sources for this paper. You've got to decide at each step how you're going to bring it to bear on the rest of the paper. And the way that you let your reader know how you relate sources to the rest of your argument, how you're taking what they do the next step, you're going to demonstrate that by your use of transitions. Now, in most cases, there are some exceptions, but in most cases you don't want to lead off a paragraph with a quotation. Alright? You want to give some kind of topic sentence that lets your reader know this is how this paragraph is going to relate to what came before, or how it's going to relate to my big idea in general. Once you've done that, then you need to start thinking about how does this source material that I'm bringing in relate to my grand argument. Alright? Now, if you are looking at this source and you say this is brilliant stuff, I basically agree with what this is saying, then you can give a pretty standard intro to it, according to Gilmour, so on, so on, so on. Then you'll want to give some kind of transition that indicates to your reader you're taking the next step. This is a good thought. We can expand it to reflect on my own profession in this respect. Transitions like therefore, transitions along these lines, something like that is going to work well if you are taking a source, agreeing with it, moving on. When you do it another way, alright, when you decide that I've looked at this source and what it says I'm ultimately not going to agree with, then you need to use some other sort of lead-in to signal to your reader, alright, what you're about to read is not my thought, it's something that I'm going to react against. The way you can do that is you can name the source. You can say, for instance, liberal historian so-and-so says this, if you happen not to be a liberal historian. You can say, Roman Catholic theologian so-and-so says this, if you happen not to be Roman Catholic. In other words, naming your source, letting your reader know that you are putting some distance between yourself and the source, that's one good way to do it. Then, once you're done with the quote, your next sentence, when you're adding your material to it, you use a transition that indicates contrast or concession. Even though Smith is right about this, and then make your argument. Even though Wilson says, comma, direct quote, close your quote, and then, transition into your own thought. In other words, don't just drop your quotes in there. Don't start a sentence with a quotation mark. Don't just say so-and-so says every time, but give some thought, alright? This source, this moment, right here in my paper, how is this going to relate to my big idea? How is it going to relate to the idea I'm trying to advance in this part of the paper? Okay. Now, as far as the nuts and bolts, what do you need to do about where to put your quotation marks, where do you put your parentheses, where do you put your commas, where do you put your periods, what do you italicize, what do you put in the parenthetical citations? The answer is you're going to find all of those answers in the style guide for whatever discipline you're using. The rules are going to be different if you're using MLA on one hand, APA on the other. What you need to do is, you have a few options. One is, you can find a handbook that you bought for another class and use it. You can go down to the SSC in Aaron Hall, second floor. They've got style guides for the various citation forms. You've got some options here. Find the resources, go to your professors, make sure that you got this stuff right, because again, the nuts and bolts stuff of this, if I haven't mentioned it before, I'll mention it now. This is what's going to demonstrate to your reader that you care enough about this document to do it right. This is your professional face. This is how you let them know you ought to take me seriously as a thinker. Alright? Now, when it comes to integrating your sources, again, just remember you have some flexibility. You don't have to find sources that agree with you. You don't have to agree with your sources. You can have a mix of sources, some that you want to react against to advance your own ideas, some you want to take the ideas that they've already presented and take them a step further, some of them that are going to provide background information that's necessary to articulate your ideas. There's a spectrum of relationships that you can have to any given source. What you need to signal to your reader by use of transitions, by use of the sentences before and after, by use of topic sentences, All of these things you need to signal to your reader, this is how I am responding, this is how I'm relating to this source at this time, at this point in my paper. Alright? Now, the next little video we're going to talk about the integration of faith and learning. This is one of my favorite things about this paper, is that you're taking some library research, you're taking your own spiritual journey, you're mixing them together. This is going to be fun. I'll see you in the next clip.